Hello and welcome back to the Church of the Templar Mormon. This is Dr. Rick. Thankful to see you again. And today I want to talk a little bit about the Templar Knights. Because as I've mentioned before, I believe that the Joseph Smith Jr. got his information for the Mormon Church from the Templar Knights through the Masons down to Joseph Smith. And I want to talk a little bit about that and how that works. You know, in Europe, the Templars for several centuries were liked by the Pope and the Catholic Church. You know, they fought in crusades. They supposedly protected pilgrims on their way to Jerusalem for pilgrimage. But then in the early 1300s, all of a sudden that changed. And the Pope declared the Templars to be heretic, as well as the Cathars, which were connected with the Templars. And the King of France arrested the leaders of the Templars and proceeded to torture them and eventually killed them. But that was only in France. There was lots of Templars in other places in Europe and in Great Britain and Scotland. And these guys escaped. And then what happened to them has been a subject of debate amongst historians. And but the view that I keep hearing about is that they may have hid within the newly formed Masonic order, or they may have actually formed the Masonic order and were able to keep their secrets hidden behind the wall of secrecy of the Masons. One thing I just recently learned is that the Catholic Church is very anti-Mason. I guess they don't like that they have secrets, that they won't tell the Catholic Church what they are. So basically the Catholic Church doesn't want its members to be Mason, and they condemn the Masons for being anti-Catholic. Which, if the Templars were involved, you can understand why they would be anti-Catholic. So, you know, when I first came upon my theory, you know, I looked for connections between Joseph Smith Jr. and the Masons. And when I would look like on the internet, I would come basically to the same things I had heard all my whole life about the Mormons and the Masons, is that a few years before Joseph Smith was killed, he became a Mason, and he raised rapidly through the ranks, and then the Masons claimed that he took their rituals and made the Mormon temple ceremonies, the endowment ceremonies, from the Masonic rituals. And basically he stole the Masonic rituals and made the temple rituals that go on today. You know, but that didn't explain what I was looking for. So I kept looking. I thought there's got to be a connection further back. And I came upon this book. It's called Mormons, Masons, and Templars by Donald Goodlay. G-O, Goodlett. Goodlett. He had some interesting ideas. I read a little bit about the book, a little bit of the book before I bought it to see that it was what I was looking for, because I had been fooled by other books that, claimed to talk about Masons and Mormons, and it was just the same old stuff. This book had a completely different take on it, and he had it very well researched. And what he was claiming in this book is that Joseph Smith's family, his father, his grandfather, his uncles, cousins, older brothers, were all members of the Masons. His father, Joseph Smith Sr., was a master Mason. His older brother, Hiram Smith, was a Mason. His cousin, Oliver Cowdery, if not a Mason, his family were Masons, and he grew up around Masons, just like it appears, according to this book, that Joseph Smith did. He grew up surrounded with Masons. So this was all new to me and very interesting to me. And then he's made other claims that the many of the founding members of the Mormon Church, when it was first founded in 1830, were Masons, as well as the witnesses to the Book of Mormon, the 3 witnesses and the 12 witnesses of the Book of Mormon, were most of them, if not all, were Masons. Many of the early leaders of the Mormon Church, including Brigham Young, were Masons, before they became Mormons. There was a very big influence of Masons upon the early Mormon Church. And this was what I was looking for. Of course, Brigham Young, after Joseph Smith was murdered, the mob members who had committed the murder, they were recognized by Mormons, who were, of course, at the jail when the raid happened. They were recognized as Masons. They were known Masons who killed Joseph Smith. And then, of course, Brigham Young took the fledgling church and he started to take them west. Some people say he was heading to California, but we know in the history of the church that Joseph Smith had planned years ahead to take the Mormon Church to the Salt Lake Valley, and had sent people there to survey the area and to scout out a route that the saints could take to travel to the Salt Lake Valley. So it was well known, and I'm sure Brigham Young knew this. So when he came to the Salt Lake Valley and got out of the wagon and said, "Hey, this is the place," maybe it wasn't so much revelation, maybe it was all planned. But anyway, when they had started, they left Illinois, and then he gathered together the male members of the church, and he made a proclamation. He said that you cannot be a Mason and a Mormon anymore. He says if you want to remain a Mason, then you got to turn around, go back to Illinois, and you no longer be a Mormon. You be a Mason. Or if you want to stay a Mormon, then you're no longer going to be a Mason. and that actually from this time onwards, the rule that if you're a Mormon, you can't become a Mason was established by the Mormon Church, not by the Masonic Order. In fact, there's no record that the Masons ever made any such claim that you can't be a Mormon and be a Mason. Except in Salt Lake City, there is a Masonic Lodge in Salt Lake City, and I guess they had a rule that you can't be a Mormon and be a Mason. They're like the only lodge that I could find any record of that made such a claim. But anyway, this ban on Mormons being Masons lasted from Brigham Young's time to 1979, where the church lifted this ban, and now you could be a Mason and a Mormon. It's interesting because 1979 is about the same time that the church also lifted its ban on blacks holding the priesthood. You know, it's interesting. You know, it's a time of reformation, I guess, in the church. Okay, so Joseph Smith, going back to Joseph Smith, and his family, they were a member of the York Masons. In fact, his father, Joseph Smith Sr., supposedly belonged to a lodge called the Israelite Lodge. And to be in this lodge, you had to be a descendant of the lost tribes of Israel, which Joseph Smith Sr. believed that they were. And in fact, that this lodge was kind of like the priest of the Masonic Order, of the York Mason Order, and they would perform rituals similar to the rituals that the priests would perform in the Temple of Solomon, which of course the Masons claim that they date back to the Temple of Solomon. And of course Joseph Smith claims that not only was he a member of the lost tribes, but that he was descended from Jesus Christ. Which is also an interesting thing, because when I was growing up in the Mormon Church, I was taught that the Mormon Church was calling forth the remnant of Israel out of the Gentiles, out of Europe, out of wherever, to the Mormon Church. And if you were of Israeli descent, a member of one of the 10 tribes of Israel, the lost 10 tribes, you would recognize the message in your heart and recognize the true gospel and join the Mormon Church. And of course, when you joined the church, you would get a patriarchal blessing, which would tell you what tribe you belong to, and what few people came from other tribes. You know, like if you're a Filipino or something, you know, and you may not have been one of the 10 tribes, you would be adopted into one of the tribes. You had to be one of the tribes to be in the Mormon Church. It's one of the reasons why we call people who are not in the Mormon Church Gentiles. Okay, but this York Masons, this was the same Masonic group that the founding fathers belonged to. George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, like these people were all York Masons, not Scottish Rite Masons like you hear now on the History Channel. You were York Masons. And we'll talk in a later thing about what happened to the York Masons in America and why was it replaced with the Scottish Rites. But York Mason was the main group here, especially in upstate New York, where Joseph Smith was growing up. And these York Masons their Grand Master was a Sinclair. It had been handed down from father to son in the Sinclair line, for generations, basically. And if you remember the Da Vinci Code, you might remember the name Sinclair. He plays prominently in this Da Vinci Code and the Pyre of Zion. The Sinclairs were also the ones that built Rosslyn Chapel. And they're also, the legend is that Sinclair came to America before Columbus and brought some Templar secrets and maybe treasures to America and hid them in America. And they largely count in the early history of the Masons and in the Knight Templar legends. Sinclair is a major name, and they led the York Masons, which Joseph Smith's father and family were all members of. Now, some of the things that some of these early York Masons believe in, because a lot of the stuff is secret, but so these are things that like people like Benjamin Franklin have stated. So I'm taking it that he probably got it from the Masons, and they're similar to things that that Joseph Smith supposedly restored in his gospel. One of these is, like I said, the Israelite Lodge believed that they were remnants of the lost tribes of Israel, and the Mormons believed that the people who hear Mormonism and get stirring in their heart to want to join are also remnants of the lost tribe of Israel. We know, we believe, because we have circumstantial evidence about the Templars coming to visit America and hiding stuff here, and them referring to America as the New Jerusalem, which is one of the main things that stirred my attention, was because Joseph Smith, early on in his restoration, claimed that the New Jerusalem was here in America, and later on he said it was in Missouri and gave the exact spot and said this is the site of the New Jerusalem. And then another thing was, and I know Benjamin Franklin and some of the other founding fathers have espoused this idea that there's life on other planets. They said there's life on other planets, and probably there's life on every planet, and every one of these planets have their own God. Just like we have our God, and whether it's Jesus or whatever, the other planets have their own gods, and which sounds very similar to Joseph Smith's idea of multiplicity of gods, that our God is just one of many gods, and we just happen to belong to our God, because he created this world and he populated it with his children. So this is another one that's similar to some beliefs of early Masons, or at least people who were Masons. And, you know, did they get it from the Masons, or did they just think of it on their own? You know, that's the question. And the other thing is that America has been saved for a special purpose. And this is one thing I hear in the Templar research about Templars visiting America, is that they wanted to keep America secret, that they were saving it for the Templars, and that they were saving it for a special purpose. When the United States was created, the Founding Fathers also expressed this idea that America was a special place, and that it was saved for America. And also the Constitution of the United States, it's been said that the Constitution was patterned on the Masonic Constitution of the York Masons, that the Founding Fathers belonged to, and they took that Constitution and created the United States Constitution. And of course, Joseph Smith claimed the same thing, that America was a special place, that God had saved this place for the creation or the restoration of the Mormon Church, and that he had arranged things with the creation of the United States government to allow a place with favorable laws that something like the Mormon Church could be restored. You know, I'll talk more about some of these things in future videos. I want to thank you for watching these videos. This is the Church of the Templar Saints, or the Templar Mormons. And this is Dr. Rick. And I welcome you to join my channel, and if you want to donate to this ministry, you're more than welcome to donate. I would appreciate any help. And I hope to see you in the next video.